So one of the most interesting things about choreography is who leads, how, and what is followed, right? Like there's a question of instruction and authority. So in this episode, I'm going to focus on just that. Instruction and authority. How do they work? Because instruction is never neutral, right? Even the gentlest of invitations organizes behavior. So this is what I'm sort of suggesting in some of my readings of, or like my descriptions of choreography, is this idea that even the gentlest, even the slightest, subtlest influence on us organizes how we behave, our actions, our thoughts, our perceptions. So in this episode, we're going to explore that authority as something that emerges, shifts, and leaks, rather than something that someone has, right? Because we all have it in different ways. There's an intersectional nature to authority. However, we tend to organize the art world. We tend to organize the world in general through these hierarchical notions of authorship, authority, and even I've already said that, authorship. So to start, I'd like to share a performative choreography that I've been working with for many years. So just listen to this performative choreography that I will share with you. It's called Stand, and it's by me, Peter, myself. Okay. Stand, 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 stand tall, stand wide, stand on your toes, stand on your heels, stand on one leg, shift your weight, stretch your arms, lift your head, breathe. Stand here, stand now, stand together. Stand, 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 stand up, stand straight, stand strong, stand better, stand well. Stand here, stand now, stand. How are you standing? Do you stand well? Are your feet grounded in your stance? Is your spine tall when you stand? Do your shoulders relax when you stand? Should your neck be free when you stand? How does your breath move when you stand? Where does the weight fall? Which muscles hold you here? Which muscles are free? Stand, stand, stand. And when was the last time you stood like this? When was the first? Have you stood like this before? Have you stood here before? Where have you stood? Where do you stand? What good is a stance? What is a good stance? What is a bad stance? And who taught you that? How far from this stand can you go before you are no longer standing? Are your arms standing? Is your head standing? Is your spine standing? Is your breath? Do you recognize anyone in this stance? Does this stance remember anyone? Does it belong to someone? Does it belong to you? Is this stance historical? Hold still. Does this stance have a story? Who stood like this before? Who stands like this after? Stand. Stand again. Stand until your standing starts to shift. Is this stance political? Is this stance obedient? Is this stance resistance? Is this stance consent? Where does your weight fall? When you stand for something. Where does your weight fall when you stand against something? When does your weight fall when you stand with something? Stand, 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 stand still, stand until stillness starts to move. Are you still standing if you're leaning forwards? Are you still standing? Are you still standing if your knees soften? Are you still standing? Are you still standing if your balance slips? Are you still standing? Are you still standing if you let yourself fall? Are you still standing? How many kinds of standing are there? How many did you inherit? How many can you refuse? Stand, 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 stand up, stand down, stand by, stand aside, stand alone, stand with, stand for, stand, 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 stand. And who is standing for the ones who stand alone? Stand, stand, stand. And who is standing for the ones who don't stand? Stand, stand, stand. And who are standing for the ones who can't stand? Stand, 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 stand. What can't you stand? What can't you stand? What can't you stand? Stand, stand, stand. Where do you stand? Okay, great. I hope that was interesting. And in this place of thinking about and questioning instruction and authority, of course, I'm here in a instructional, authoritative place, position, providing prompts for these workshops for investigations, questioning and intrigues into dancing. What causes our dancing? So there's already a relationship there, right, where you are having to negotiate this this terrain of authority. And that's hopefully what is visible in that piece that I just performed for you, is that relationship of, am I standing, how am I standing, and in what way? Okay, but now I'd like you to go away and follow without believing. So listen to instructions, your own instructions, recorded instructions, these instructions, written instructions, imagined instructions. So find an instruction in the world, in your world, within your dancing maybe, within your practice, and then follow it precisely, like engage in it, while internally disagreeing with it. And notice what still happens. What happens when we follow the instruction but disagree internally with that instruction? One of the conditions that I try to provoke a little bit in the standing exercise performance. So go away. It can be any instruction. You can even take the instruction of stand as the instruction, but disagree with that instruction and try to notice what happens to the activity when you follow it precisely and yet internally disagree. Okay. See you in a bit. Great. I hope you enjoyed that sort of how I experience it, a sort of like fight with this ambiguity, this almost impossible nature of doing something that you disagree with. But we all know those places, right? But then in this moment, to try to create that through following an instruction that you know, or you've heard, or you've recorded, or written, or imagined, it's a playful place of trying to get in touch with exactly this question of what is informing our dance, what is creating our activity, how do we relate to those internal struggles, this notion of like self-policing that you could perhaps draw from the likes of Michel Foucault, right? This sort of internal relationship with authority that is undertaken by ourselves to be a good person, to be a good dancer, to stand in the correct way, to obey. All right, so now I'd like you to lead without control. So give yourself instructions that you intentionally incomplete, that are intentionally incomplete or contradictory or vague. Let the authority sort of wobble, so to speak. So, for example, if you give yourself the instruction to stand, allow how you describe that instruction for yourself, like to be sort of vague and incomplete, and see where how the authority around that instruction sort of operates and plays, and look for contradiction as well. So for a simple example, I'm trying to think of a good example, but a simple example maybe stand while sitting, it's sort of contradictory positioning. Like what does one have to do? Move while staying still. Move in no direction. Play with this sort of the ambiguity place. Okay, see you in a minute. Great. I love that place because I think there's a lot of creativity, in fact, as we meet with these authorities, with these structures. And in fact, I feel like that's perhaps one of the largest conditions of dancing sometimes, that we have a set of conditions that we find ourselves in. Some of them are more or less impassable. Like physical limitations, things like that, the architecture of a space, of a place, but yet they're in sort of coming up against those limitations that we either imagine or self-police. We start to find new ways of being, things that slip outside of what is possible, what is acceptable or considered, or maybe even understood as dancing, maybe, or what we're doing or what we're playing with. So it's this sort of very creative, open, playful space, at least for me. So hopefully that was interesting. So now let's try and do some delayed obedience. Hear an instruction, wait, then do it much later. Notice how memory, interpretation, and desire reshapes it. Okay? So see if you can find instructions in the world and hear them, but don't do them immediately. Wait for some time and see how that instruction changes through time. Maybe even look for instructions you've been given by different authorities in your life, dance teachers, parents, and just notice in doing them now, much later after they were given, how your memory of them and your interpretation of them and your desire can reshape what is being performed. And if it's possible, you could even sort of go back and see where an instruction has been it has been performed or acted through your life or through your practice, and just notice how the memory of the different ones are being changed and reshaped all the time in this sort of creative remembering of the instruction. So go away and have a dance with past instructions, or listening for instructions now and seeing how time affects the doing of the instruction. Great. I love how, like, with the distance to the authority, there's a sense of like of how you can sort of feel the change. For me, it feels as though I'm channeling into the zeitgeist, the sort of the now, the present moment, and all its constituent sort of political, social, historical, cultural specificities, and recognizing in the sort of recreating or the reenacting of a dance that was instructed some time ago, how I sort of reinterpret it. I gain sort of a new authorship over it, but at the same time it sits within other authorities that play a role on it. So to continue one last time, I'd like to invite us now to play with multiple authorities. And to do this simply, I'd like us to choose 3 authorities to try and work with simultaneously this time. So you can start standing, lying, walking, however you wish. There's no correct posture, and let there be room to be part of the exercise in some way. But the first, I'll give an instruction, and then that will be one authority or instruction to follow. And then I'm going to invite you to follow a sensation and have that as a second authority. And then thirdly, I'd like you to follow a memory. So we've got instruction, sensation, and memory. And the idea is to try to follow all 3 simultaneously at once. So, for example, wherever you are, I want you to move as if you are slowly turning a heavy dial, right? And not to get anywhere, but just to turn. And that can be with one part of the body or the whole body, but you're just turning a dial like a switch, like a volume button that is very heavy and turning slowly all the time. And you have this instruction continue in the background. Even if you forget, you try to continue turning. And at the same time, allow your attention to land on the strongest sensation you feel right now. So that could be temperature, weight, contact with something, or tension or ease. And let those sensations influence how you turn the dial of this in this action. And then the third thing, I'd like you to invite you to now invite a movement memory, not a story, but a physical memory, a body doing something it did once, right? So it could be walking home, or carrying something heavy, or something in your hand or on your back, or waiting perhaps somewhere, the physical sensation of standing in a queue, or even of some dancing that you've been doing. And do this, allow this memory to shape the other 2 instructions, right? So you're turning a dial, you're listening to, allowing sensations to influence your turning of the dial, temperature, weight, tension, ease, contact, and finally inviting a memory, and allow that to arrive, and try not to shape the memory, try to just be with it. And you may notice the instructions trying to organize the body, and the sensations trying to pull you towards comfort and intensity. The memories quietly rewriting everything. But do not resolve the conflict. If one authority takes over, let it go, let it take over. And if another disappears, let it go. And if all three continue moving away, continue. And you can ask, whilst you're doing this, when do you obey the instruction most clearly? When does the sensation interrupt? And when does the memory control without asking? And which authority feels most legitimate or more legitimate than the other? Which can you feel with ease to ignore? And which one feels like you? Which one connects to you? So let the movement come and pause without deciding to stop. Then notice with the authority, which authority was present at the end. So I'm going to give you a moment to continue playing with this. You can pause the audio. You can stay with the turning of a dial, or try and find another, or find another instruction, and do the same with sensation and memory. But spend some time with this. Great. So I always feel like there are multiple authorities, of course, happening on us all the time, but it's very nice to try to articulate them so discreetly. And of course, there are probably other ways we can define and categorize them. I feel like with the work I do with babies, the sort of, you have different senses, different inputs and different stimuli, and they all sort of merge and meld, and it is our sort of rational mind that tries to keep them separate, but in some ways they're always related and connected somehow. So to just for a reflection, I'm going to ask a few questions for you to reflect on this topic of this workshop, authority and instruction. So did you experience authority as external, internal, or shifting between the two? And you can write or you can discuss. Do you trust one source more than another? So where does the authority come from, and what source do you trust more than the other? When did care appear? So care is a very interesting concept in relationship to authority and instruction. Did you feel cared for? Did you feel as though you were caring for something through attending a certain authority or instruction? When did resistance appear? And how did it appear? In what way did it appear? And what would it mean to choreograph with multiple authorities rather than choosing one? Right? What would it mean to choreograph or to dance even, when you not only listen to the authority of the choreographer or of the room even, but you include authorities from your sensations, from your mood, from the social, political nature of the world at that moment? What would it mean to choreograph and dance with multiple authorities? Okay. Thank you for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, thanks for listening. If you can support the podcast, please go to paypal.me/dancepeter. I'm just looking for a little bit of funding to help support the cost of the hosting. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much.